Hello everyone and welcome back to the next installment of our 9.1 raid guides. This is Crzypck from Complexity Limit and I've taken back my microphone from Aya. Today we're going to show you how to defeat the Mythic Eye of the Jailer encounter in the Sanctum of Domination. Let's start with a short disclaimer. All of our Mythic guides will assume you have a good understanding of the heroic version of the encounter. We will not be discussing the basic mechanics, but instead the changes for Mythic and our strategy for how to defeat the Mythic version of the encounter. If you need a refresher on any of the basic mechanics for a fight, check out our heroic videos on the channel. The Eye of the Jailer has a couple of mechanical changes for Mythic. Anytime you're fighting the Eye itself, it'll periodically put out a debuff called Hopeless Lethargy on a few random players. This puts a gray circle around the affected players. Anyone within the circle takes some ticking shadow damage and is slowed by 50%. These people just need to spread out from the raid a little bit. The other major change is during stage 2 while you're fighting Deathseeker Eyes. There's two new debuffs here, Scorn and Ire. The right hand Deathseeker Eye gives Scorn, the left hand Deathseeker Eye gives Ire. If you're within 70 yards of both, the initial debuff you get is random. If you are only in range of one Deathseeker Eye, that eye's debuff is what you'll get. These debuffs last 9 seconds and tick for shadow damage every 1.5 seconds. After 8 seconds, a new stack will go out, refreshing the duration and increasing the damage you take. If you come into contact with a player that has the opposite debuff, you'll both explode and instantly die. This explosion also deals large amount of damage to the rest of the raid, which is very likely to kill more people than just the two that screwed up. Comp-wise, we recommend 2 tanks, 4 healers, and 14 DPS. However, if neither of the stage 2 strategies we discuss later work for you, you may want to add a 5th healer to help your raid stay stable. Strategy-wise for stage 1, you'll deal with everything largely the same as you did on Heroic. Players with Hopeless Lethargy need to move away from other people. Tanks will need to make sure they're mitigating Deathlink properly or people will die. Don't stand in swirlies, don't get hit by the spinning laser. When the Stygian Abductor casts Dragging Chains, every non-tank player in the raid that doesn't have the Hopeless Lethargy should help stack. The pool is much stronger on Mythic, so having as many people as possible help soak this will ensure nobody ends up getting yoinked off the edge. For stage 2, there's 2 different viable strategies you can choose from. Option 1 has a higher DPS and HPS requirement, option 2 is a safer play. In option 1, you'll split the raid in half, with one half going to the Scorn side and the other half going to the Ire side. 2 healers on each side, and well, that's actually it for this strategy. Just nuke Deathseeker Eyes. The difficulty here is the stacks. By the time you get to 8 stacks of debuffs on the raid, you're getting chunked each tick and you're going to need healer cooldowns. Pair that with literally any other source of damage during the phase and it's really easy for people to fall over. As such, the healing requirement is significantly higher with this strategy and much more difficult to handle. Your raid's DPS also comes into play. If you reach 10 stacks of the debuff, you're pretty much dead. So you have to be able to beat this mark or option 1 is not for you in your raid. Option 2 is a bit of a safer play. For starters, you'll need the Deathseeker Eyes to be a little bit further apart. When your raid reaches 4 or 5 stacks, all non-tank players will need to rotate and move to the opposite ad. After you do this, the next application of stacks will actually flip which debuff you have, resetting you back to only 1 stack of whatever that new debuff is. By doing this, you'll largely reduce the healing requirement for this stage and also relax the DPS requirement. You'll end up with a little bit of downtime while everyone is running, but that's the trade-off for it being a little bit safer overall. If you're struggling to hit the option 1 numbers checks, use this safer option for your stage 2s. We do still highly recommend attempting option 1 first, and after several weeks of the tier as your raid gets more geared, option 1 will get easier, but if it doesn't work for you, that's why we're here presenting option 2. Regardless of which stage 2 strategy you decide to use, you still have to deal with the normal stage 2 mechanics. Desolation Beam targets will need to move away from the group. You should drop the goop puddles near the edges of the room, dodge the swirlies, and nuke the Deathseeker Eye ads down. Make sure they both die within 8 seconds of each other. As soon as the second set of Deathseeker Eye ads both die, and you enter stage 3, pop Bloodlust. During stage 3 on Mythic, the boss will do his raid-wide damage tick every 6 seconds instead of every 10 seconds on Heroic. Since each tick also reduces the raid's healing received by 10%, that means you only have about a minute to burn the boss before the raid cannot be healed anymore. During your first few kills, as you're gearing up, it'll be really tight to kill him before reaching 10 stacks. Fortunately, even if you do reach 10 stacks, you don't just lose immediately, and you'll have another up to 12 or even 18 seconds of DPS time as your raid's just ticking down. Keep burning, dodge mechanics, don't get hit by anything you don't need to, have everyone possible help soak the dragging chains, and pop this eyeball. As a note, once you're at about 8 stacks of the healing reduction debuff, you may want to just sacrifice the person that gets dragging chains. It may work out better to let that one person die instead of everyone take extra damage that you may or may not be able to heal through. And well, that's really it. Go collect your loot and let's move on to the next boss. If you enjoyed this guide, remember to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to make sure you're subscribed to the channel to catch all of our previews, guides, kill videos, and more. From the team here at Complexity Limit, have a great day and we'll see you next time.